Dude, you look 10 years younger than me. Look at this. Look at this. I got hit on by my straight barber the other. At least I hope he's fucking straight. He seemed like he was straight. He was like, man, your hair is just the perfect blend of brown and gray. And I was just like, all right, I'll take it. Whatever you think.
Well,
and I told him, my mom tells me the same shit, and she's worried she's going to lose her hair someday. So I said, it's not a big deal. I can grow you a wig in less than a year.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with my mom. I don't know if you know this, but Lisa's bald. She's rocking,
no shit. So
yeah, she's rocking that Jada Pinkett Smith.
Oh dang!
And
I saw this. I saw a gnarly video on X the other day where it was showing how weaves are made, and essentially what they do is they go into the sewer in India and they take all the hair. And then they wash it and comb it and then turn it into a weave. And then they put it into your hair and it's always brown because obviously. And then they dye it blonde or whatever else. And so next time your girlfriend gets a weave, tell her, oh, your hair smells like Indian street food.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, shit. My fucking buttons are all off, so here we go. Oh, God. This was a bad cold open. Maybe we'll just skip it. This is what happens when you do 2 podcasts in one night. Things get fucked up, right? Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
What's going on? It's time for another episode of Too Hard for the Radio. Transmitting from the future-free state of Greater Idaho, I am the one-armed madman. And back with me, he's doing the Trump dance. He's been MIA for like a fucking month. We have no idea where he's been. It's Nolan 5150, everybody. How we doing, brother?
Yeah, living, alive and living. That's all I got. New Year. Yeah, man. Shit's been weird. 2025 has not gone to plan thus far for me, but just hanging tough, keeping my chin up, and we'll know more later.
Well, you can always sell yourself on OnlyFans, right?
Well, I promised myself that I would never sell my body again.
You were blessed with a great body from birth. And it just happens for some people. Like, you remember when we go to the gym and I would just be fucking struggling my ass off to get a bench press up? And for people not listening, I was a small guy. Like, I grew up fucking skinny. It was hard for me to put weight on. And me and Nolan started working out. And my arms got big and strong real fucking quick. I was right there with you on triceps and biceps. And then we'd go to the bench press and I would get embarrassed. I'd have 145 on and I'm like, ah! And then Nolan straps 2 plates on there and just throws up sets. It's like, God damn, how the fuck does that happen?
It's that
Roy had you on the bench press at fucking 7.
No. Yeah, it's that's the Cerveny side of the DNA genetics that I got. But yeah. I mean, it's one thing that I'll say, is that corporal punishment? I don't know, but getting punished
I'm in a corporal punishment website for hazing. It's like a paper.
Do you have to register?
It was like a scientific paper. No. It was like a scientific paper on hazing, and then it brought in the Cloverdale part, and then it attached an interview that I did with the Press Democrat. And it didn't list my name because I was 17 at the time, so they couldn't. But yeah, that's me talking shit about everybody in Cloverdale in that article. And it's in, I don't remember exactly. I can pull it up right now, actually, because I just saved it a week ago because I couldn't find it. Let's see. I saved it to this. Where are we? This is production work. Here it is. World Corporal Punishment Research. World.
Wow.
Should I read some of it? It was a violent coming-of-age ceremony, a secret ritual passed from one generation to the next with brutal efficiency. The younger boys anticipated it with a mix of pride and dread. The older boys planned it with a mix of privilege and duty. Its physically and emotionally impacts were brushed aside, but they endured long enough for the victims to mature into a new generation of perpetrators. Hazing in the world of the initiation rites were welcome newcomers into the fold of sports teams, clubs, fraternities, sororities, or other cases of the city of Cloverdale High School. But the 7 boys who were arrested in that city last summer weren't charged with hazing. The court papers included words such as assault, conspiracy, and kidnapping. Yeah, there was actually 10 of us. Only 7 of us got busted. Brian Hampton had knee surgery a couple of days before the cops showed up at his house, and his dad just slammed the door on him and told him to get fucked. So he never got in trouble. Adam Zanzi went and hid at Lake Sonoma in a tent for a couple months, so he didn't get busted. And then there was one other guy. Oh, Pud didn't get busted either. I don't remember how Pud got out of it, but I think he might have moved or something like that. Here we go. Oh, yeah. So I got charged with 10 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, 1 count of possession with a deadly weapon, 7 counts of kidnapping, and 10 counts of criminal conspiracy.
Okay, and just so we're clear here, the deadly weapon was a fucking paddle?
Yes. The cop did a news interview where he held it up. He's like, this paddle is big enough to bring down a horse. It's like, yeah, if you beat the fucking horse in the head with it while you had it tied up, maybe. But come on, dude. We're hitting these kids in the ass with a 2x6. It's not a fucking big deal, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
They had rounded up some of the towns. Go ahead.
You were... You were made an example of you know, and that was the beginning of that was the beginning of the end.
It was the beginning of the end for me. I've been attacked by the state since before. So what really happened is, if we want to get deep into this, because I don't have a ton of shit planned for tonight, so this is actually kind of good. So the cop that did all of this was not like a lieutenant or a sergeant. He was a piss on. And he wasn't from Cloverdale, so everybody fucking hated him. And he thought he was a cowboy, and he was just a piece of shit. So it started with a motorcycle track, actually, believe it or not. We were building a dirt bike track next to Cloverdale Boulevard on our property in Cloverdale, and we were using a cat, and it got dusty. And I was out cutting lines. It was the first day that we were doing it, so I'm on the bike. Ralph's on the tractor. This is like the first time I tried to get Ralph to let me build a track for fucking ever. And he finally gave me a spot where I could do it. So we're building this thing, and dust is going out on the road. It's not a big deal. And here comes Officer Campbell to save the day. And, hey, we got a report from your neighbors that this dust is out of control and you can't do this here. Noise and environmental, blah, blah, blah. So my dad told him to get fucked. And then he got put into handcuffs and put into the back of a police car. And my mom, being a paralegal at the time, thought she was going to argue law with this moron. But these guys don't know the fucking law. They just enforce what they think is law. So big argument. Al finally gets released. And the end of this, long story short, I was going to say moral of the story, but there's no moral here, except for cops are fucking, fuck the police. The end of the story was I got no dirt bike track. And he said the neighbors were complaining, but the neighbors were out on lawn chairs watching me ride.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, typical.
So then we had a party at my house a couple months later. I'm 16 or 17 at the time. And a chick who had just gotten out of a relationship hooked up with my buddy Brandon, who you know. And her ex-boyfriend got mad, got her into a bedroom by herself, and choked her out. Fucking choked her. So we beat the shit out of him, threw him out of the house, really beat the shit out of him. And threw him out of the house. He got everything that he deserved out of that one. There was adults there too, and they hammered on him. And the cops ended up showing up the next day. I had alcohol poisoning and just totally fucked up. And it was Officer Campbell who did the whole thing. So he had an axe to grind from the beginning. So he was the only cop in town that wanted to touch this. Everybody else was just nope, we're not touching this with a 10-foot pole. But Campbell wanted to be the man in Cloverdale. So he, pressed hard and charged us with as many crimes as he possibly could. All those crimes that I listed were felonies. They wanted to put us in jail for 10 years. It was fucking crazy. I got arrested. I got thrown into juvie with murderers because our charges were so high. When we got to the jail, the guys like doing intake, they were like, you guys are the hazing guys? Oh my God, this is so fucking stupid. We're going to put you on 24-hour lockdown for your own safety. You guys don't belong in here. So like, don't think that we're punishing you for being here. Like we're going to do our best to keep you safe. And so they put us on 24/7 lockdown. I just slept the whole time because I was a drunken mess at that point because we had just graduated our junior year. So we were partying like fucking crazy. So I was catching up on sleep. And there was one guy in there that was just like, wanted to be the man and wanted to beat the shit out of us. So he was like standing in front of our mine and somebody else's window, like talking shit at us for like 20 minutes. And I'm just sleeping. I don't fucking care. And finally, like some guy comes and grabs this guy and like throws him up against the wall and is like, you don't touch these fucking guys. You touch these guys and you're going to deal with me. I'm like, holy shit, who the fuck is this guy? I'm kind of scared now. Turned out, I thought this guy, TT, that I went to school with, he was a Native American. I thought he moved. Well, he moved, just not to a different house. He moved to jail because he stabbed his stepfather in the chest 47 times with a butcher knife after he beat up his mom.
Well,
so he comes in, throws me some candy, and was like, don't worry, man. I remember you, and I got your back. I was just like, fuck yeah, dude. That's how we roll. And he was in there for a long time. Like, he was doing 30 or 50 years or something like that. He was going to spend the rest of his life in jail. So the fact that, like, he knew somebody in there, it was just fun for him, I think. And he got to, throw down a little bit with the Negroes.
Yeah.
But I actually slept through a riot while we were in there. There was a riot. All, like, the riot lights came on. And I was passed out. And I was sleeping, and the guards were like banging on my, get out on the floor, get out on the floor. And I just slept through the entire fucking thing. I don't remember it at all. They finally just let me sleep, I think. I don't really know what happened. Anyways, that was jail. They put us on an ankle monitor after I got out, and I had to be on an ankle monitor for my entire junior summer. Luckily, Brandon lived with us at the time, and my sister was 2 years younger than me. And you're not allowed to have people over while you're on house arrest. But you cannot punish my sister for us being on house arrest. So if she wants to invite people over to have fun, well, that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And luckily we were 2 years apart, so it didn't matter who we invited over because everybody was friends.
Yeah.
Back to the article. Here we go. They had rounded up some of the town's graduating 8th graders, some willing, many not. That's not true. They all came willingly. And driven them.
I mean, if you've ever seen Dazed and Confused, you either
what happened.
You either show up and take your lickings, or you run, and it's 10 times worse.
So this is how it went down. We got off of school, last day of school. We loaded me and Brandon into my pickup. Somebody else was in the back laying down, and we just started driving down Cloverdale Boulevard. We tried to find some 8th graders who were walking home. We pull up on them. We're like, hey, you guys just graduated? They're like, yep. Get in the back of the truck. They're like, okay. We got your buddies want to get this over with, and they're like, oh yeah, let's just get call them up, tell them where we're gonna meet them, and we'll pick them up. We'll go out to Lake Sonoma. We'll give you guys a couple licks, and then we'll go to my house and party for the night. And we did. Yeah. Like we went, we paddled them, and then we all went and got drunk and hung out in the pool, and they had a blast. Like everybody had a great time. Turned out that one of the kids that we paddled was poor, very poor, and his mom saw this as a money-making opportunity. And she took one look at our house and went cha-ching. And the whole game was charge these fuckers with as much as they possibly can so I can sue them and move into their house. That was the game. And she worked with the cop to get everything. Like she made the guy too, and this is fucked up. The kid that happened to, he was a shithead. He talked more shit than anybody there. Oh, that was it, you fucking pussy. That kind of
shit. They had a plan. They had a fucking plan.
And so once we got back into school, my lawyer was like, do not talk to this kid. Don't even look at him because they're just wanting something. And I told all my buddies the same thing. Like, do not touch this kid. Don't interact with him. Don't invite him to any parties. He is out. He is off the island, essentially. Like, this kid is, gone. And he showed up at a party like the first week of school, and he's tried starting fights with me and Brandon and a couple other guys, like physical fist fights. And I would have smoked this kid. Everybody would have smoked this kid. He was still going for the fucking lawsuit, even after it was all said and done. Real shithead. We ended up having to do this, we took a deal so we didn't get any of the charges, and then she wasn't able to sue us. And we had to do like all these speeches where I had to go around. I was the only one that had a brain and a mouth. Like nobody else could talk in front of people. So I had to do everything. I had to do the school assemblies. I had to go to the Lions Club, the Rotary Club, like all of these clubs, and just lie my ass off about how fucking sorry I was and how I've learned a lesson and blah, 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 blah. I had to do all of that shit. It was ridiculous. None of them could talk. Like it was a joke. Anyways, let's continue. It's a physical and emotional impacts were brushed. Oh, wait, I already read that. They had rounded up some willing, many not, and driven them, that's a typo, drove them to a remote party spot near Lake Sonoma. Then, as previous graduation of high school seniors had done to most of them for 4 years before, the older boys beat the younger ones' buttocks with wooden paddles designed specifically to inflict pain. Some were hit once, some were hit many times. Quote, "We stopped when we could tell they couldn't take any more," said one of the seniors. He and another of the 7 perpetrators agreed to talk this week on the condition of their names wouldn't appear in the newspaper, talking about their experiences and its aftermath. It's part of the plan. Quote, "They had all undertaken this place of the sentence they would otherwise have received for their crimes, known as restorative justice." That's what I was just explaining. "It seeks to connect your young offenders to their victims and their communities in order to develop the kind of empathy that it would make them think twice before doing this again." Here we go. Now we get into the interview. He had known it was coming since he was in 4th grade. 3 days before the end of his 8th grade year, he and a friend walked down a Cloverdale street. 2 other boys picked him up in a pickup. Quote, "They asked if we'd been paddled yet. We said no, and we got in the truck." That doesn't sound like, kidnapping to me, right? Yeah. They were then taken to a house, told to keep quiet, ordered to bend over, and were struck with a paddle. Quote, "It hurt a lot, but the second time wasn't so bad because I was kind of numb." I think this is one of the kids that we paddled, not me. One of the kids was really funny about it. The cop showed up at his house, and his dad was like, "Lie. Fucking lie." And so he was like, "Yeah, 5 guys showed up. 1 was in a Ferrari, 1 was in a Lamborghini, and 2 were in Hummers. I have no idea who they were because they all wore masks. They had their voices disguised with voice boxes like you would hear on a smoking commercial." Like, I got to see everything because my mom was a paralegal for my lawyer. So yeah. I got to see stuff that I wasn't supposed to be able to see. So I got to see all of their police reports. So when it all was said and done, we were like, you get to come and hang out because you're fucking cool. You did the right thing. You weren't a fucking snitch. And now you're one of the guys. And he was a cool kid. Like, he's a lineman now. He works for PG&E. All right. The boy, now 17 and getting graduate, blinks a couple of times. "It was the worst thing, but I thought it was the rightest thing." This might be me lying my ass off again. I thought it was unfair," said the second senior. Oh, here we go. Here's me. "I thought it was unfair," said the second senior, 18. "Other people did it. Everyone knew about it. Cops, teachers, parents. But through meetings with their victims, talks with school officials, and presentations to the community, the boys' feelings changed." Now, here's me lying my ass off again. I don't know why I lied to the newspaper under anonymity, but I guess they would have busted all of us if I didn't. So it's probably a good thing, right? Talking about how scared those kids were, how much it hurt. It finally set in for me that I was the bad guy. Only 7 seniors were arrested out of a class of more than 70. Isn't that funny that I only went to school with 70 people? My freshman class had 140, and we graduated with 70. Only 1 year of hazing was exposed out of perhaps decades of Cloverdale tradition. Restorative justice seeks to justify to change the minds of the perpetrators, but it changed the culture of the community. Quote, "It's been an effort to unravel something abhorrent that has become normalized," said Jessica Nash. She was the worst. Just a granola crunching lesbian. She was so condescending. She talked to you like you were 5 years old. And I had to deal with this woman for like a year and a half. And I couldn't fucking stand her. But when I started getting arrested for drugs, I was like, hey, where's this lady to keep me out of trouble? Only time will tell whether it worked. But this week, 6 of those 7 seniors stood in front of Cloverdale's assembled 8th graders and told them, you don't have to be paddled anymore. No, because you already did it and it's over.
Yeah,
Anyways,
that was the whole point.
That's in the Corporal Punishment Research Journal. That's fun. You know, I was on it was national news. We weren't going to tell my grandparents, but they saw it on the news. So it's not like we could fucking not tell them, you know?
Hey, does that mean you can add that to your like resume or credentials that you're like a nationally published contributor?
Maybe interviewed. Yeah. I have a criminal conspirator in my Twitter bio. It's a real deal. So we live in a free country again. Fucking Donald Trump's in office. The last time you were on, Biden was still rolling strong. A lot of shit's gone down in a couple weeks. What have you been paying attention to? Anything?
Honestly, not a whole lot. I just checked out some new stuff. I usually listen to one of Tim Pool's. I can't remember which
take
one
him anymore.
Yeah, it's getting hard to take, but the
Israel thing is just crazy, and the TikTok, like he's like Nancy Reagan. When I started watching Tim, he was an actual liberal. He didn't believe in guns, and now he's like a Nancy Reagan Republican, and it's just like, ugh. I can only watch him when Dave's on, and that's a stretch.
Yeah, he's been what I like put on in the mornings when I'm like getting ready for work and stuff. And yeah, it's, I don't know, man. It's, in my opinion, he's nice. Like, I don't know, like a nice,
he's good on a lot of things. He's just
moderate opinion. You know, it's not like just, it's not, I hate listening to like the same thing over and over and over again. So it's nice to, you know, break it up a little bit. He's got
pretty good about like giving you a gestalt about what's going on for the day, which is good. If you can handle his biases and stuff like that, like it's good. Like I'm on Twitter all day, so I don't really watch him anymore. But I do like his morning show to some extent. Like it's good. But yeah. You know,
it's at least like you said, it's a good outlet. It's you know, that's where I
he got
caught up.
He got bought out by the Daily Wire because he's doing this show called the Culture War podcast, which is like a 2-hour podcast once a week. And he was getting like millions of dollars for that podcast. And then they found out it was Russian money and all the money got yanked. And oh, look at that. There's no money in podcasting. This is something I had to learn the hard way. I think we'd be making some money right now. We've actually made $100 on the podcast. $100 for my interviews. Like every time I interview somebody, I make a little bit of money, and they'd only let you pull it out when it's over $100. So we paid for one microphone, almost one microphone at this point.
Hey, that's better than zero.
Yeah, right? There has been some really good news with like infrastructure. Trump just like set this new infrastructure plan. We talked about it earlier tonight on the previous podcast with Dan, where they've got a new company that's bringing in $500 billion for infrastructure for AI, which is super cool because like all the tech bros are all in with Trump now because they all like realize they need energy for AI and you're not going to be able to do AI on windmills. So now they're like all for drill, baby, drill. And hey, whatever's got to happen, you know, to get building again in this fucking country. We were talking power lines on the last episode, and Dan doesn't really have this, like, he doesn't really know power lines like I do, or even you do to this extent because I've explained it so many times. So I was going over like how many miles of power lines we built in the 50s. And in the 50s, we were building 100,000 miles of power lines a year. Last year, we built 55. And he goes, huh. And I go, 55, not 55,000, 55. He goes, oh, holy shit. And it's like, that's fucking crazy. So we got to get building again in this country. And whatever needs to happen, I'm all for it. If that means AI, great. Like, I still don't think they're going to make AGI or super intelligence anytime soon, but start throwing shit at the wall. I don't fucking care.
I heard. Like I said, I haven't been keeping up on much. I just saw a bunch of stuff from the whatever it's called when like Trump officially takes office and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
a bunch of executive orders. I just found out and saw that Biden pardoned Fauci and Milley.
Yeah. That
was interesting,
right?
Yeah. Like,
you'd think they might have done something wrong, you know? Like,
well,
and he
that's the
specifically
weirdest.
said he wasn't going to do that. He said he was not going to do any preemptive pardons, and of course he did. You know?
Yeah.
I don't even know if he did it, right? Like, there's an interesting video. I don't have it right now. I could find it, but it's not worth it. I can just paraphrase it. It was Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, was talking about how he wanted a meeting with Biden about something, and it was about Ukraine or something like that. He didn't say exactly what it was about. He said it was a national security issue, and he was bugging to get a meeting with him for like weeks, and just nothing. And he finally went to the press being like, hey, I'm second in line to the presidency, and he won't answer my calls. So finally he gets a meeting. He shows up to the Oval Office, and it's like Biden, Jill Biden, Kamala, the head of the CIA, and a couple other people who are like just ready to shake him down on Ukraine and try and get more money for Ukraine. And he's like talking to Biden, and Biden finally goes, hey, you guys need to give us a minute to talk. And they're like, no, you can't be in here alone. And he's the president, though, so he dismissed them, and they all left. And he was like, first off, like, you signed this executive order, and I don't remember what it was about, so that, like, this thing would stop. And he's like, I didn't do that. And he's like, yeah, you did. Like, it just happened a couple weeks ago. Oh, it was about shipping LNG, liquefied natural gas, to Europe. He stopped it all. Like, we were sending a bunch of liquefied natural gas because the Russian pipelines are down. Europe doesn't have as much natural gas as they did before this war. And we were supplying them with natural gas. But for some reason, he issued an executive order cutting it off. And he's like, why did you do that? And he's like, I didn't do that. He's like, yeah, you did. And he's like, do you want me to go out to your secretary and have it printed out? And he's just like, still got it. And then he goes, and then it hit me. He has no idea what he's signing. He's just signing shit. And like, there was another video the other day of him. There was another video the other day where he was signing an executive order on camera, and he's like, gets confused. He's like, where do I sign? He's like, are you guys going to put the dates in? It's like, whoa, that's fucking bad. And now I'm wondering if they're going to kill him, because you can't have him no longer being the president and have him spouting his mouth off, right? Like, he could say anything at this point. Who really knows what's going on in his head? Like, he could get on TV after he gets out of here and say some really stupid shit for the deep state. So I don't know how they're going to keep him quiet. I would imagine he's just going to disappear.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Odds are never going to see or hear from him again, literally. Until the next thing we hear is he's going to die. Exactly, yeah. There'll just be a news blip. Oh, and this just in, 2 weeks ago, Joe Biden passed away, and on to sports.
Something. Like, I don't think he's got much time left. He's like, my grandmother has really bad Alzheimer's, and she's been doing some weird shit lately. Like, she filed her finger off, like the tip of her finger, with a nail file, to the point where they're going to have to amputate her finger because,
Jesus,
like, they'll do wound care on it, they'll wrap it up, and then as soon as her caretaker like goes to the bathroom, she's got the bandage off and she's fucking chewing on it. So they're like going to have to amputate her finger, and nobody can tell her to stop. She just keeps doing it. And like, she doesn't even realize her finger's fucked up. My aunt went over there today, and she was like, my grandma's like, you want some coffee? It's really good today. And then she looked over at her mug, and she had water in it. And she looked over the coffee pot, and there's just water in it. She didn't add any coffee to the filter, and just made hot water and dumped a bunch of sugar in it, and she's just drinking sugar water like crazy.
Damn.
And, like, unfortunately, it's sad as hell. She doesn't have a lot of time left. And we're at a point where this is fucked up. This is really fucked up. But we're at a point where it's almost going to be better if she passes before she gets any worse. because she's still at a point now where she remembers some things. Like she remembers my mom and my aunt. She gets a little weird when I talk to her. Like I asked her a question last time I was over, for Christmas, and it was about something that was going on in her life, like the previous day. And I asked her about it, and she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just like, I don't know how to talk to her. It's tough for me to go over there because my memory is so fucked up that I'm looking at my future, fucking living alone, just miserable, can't figure anything out. She doesn't know why she's fucked up. Like she knows that something's wrong, but she doesn't understand what's going on. And like, even if you tell her what's going on, she still doesn't really get it. Like you kind of just have to tell her like, look, as you get older, you start to forget things. And she just, it's fucked, man. It's really fucked up. And like, I'm such a fucked up person now from this injury that like, I'm not responding in the way that I should. And like, I know it hurts my mom to like see me kind of callous about it. And it's fucking rough, Yeah. I hope they figured this shit out before me and you get to that age because it's not going to be fun, especially if you're single like I am, like hope you still got a brown beard, so you might be able to pick up some chicks still. Are you still with the last girlfriend? Oh, we probably shouldn't talk about that on air. Never mind.
Yeah. But that's one thing that always kind of gets to me, man, because my mom's mom, my grandmother on my mother's side, she suffered from severe dementia and Alzheimer's and stuff, and the last time I saw her when she was in a home, there was like all my aunts and uncles, all her children, a bunch of my cousins, her grandchildren, we were all lined up. And my one aunt walked my grandmother into the room and then just kind of like walked her down the line of her family, like her children, her children's spouses, and her grandchildren. And it was like I saw her start to kind of go downhill, and then I hadn't seen her in years, and to see her like come up in front of me and look me in the eyes and have zero recognition of who I was, that was a wild experience. And it kind of like how you said, how you feel, or your reactions, you're kind of callous or
Yeah. I don't feel like I'm going to break down crying when she dies.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to hurt my mom a lot.
Oh, absolutely. But like you said, at this point, it will be better for her to pass on, because her existence right now, it has to be torture. And like I was saying, like to see my grandmother have 0
years old.
Yeah, man. My ultimate point that I'm trying to get to is that is a symptom and a side effect of modern society, because we prop up
modernity
and support and lengthen all the old people in society to a point where they are like, their bodies are literally physically failing. And not just their bodies, but their minds, and that is like a natural state where when you get to that point, you wander off into the fucking woods, and then a fucking mountain lion gets you, and then everybody in the village is like, well, grandma got by a mountain lion.
Yeah.
Let's
and like, dude, my grandmother looks so fucking old. She's like 82 or 83. She looks like she's 105. Like my grandfather, that's her ex-husband, who's the same age, looks 20 or 30 years younger than her. It's just cigarettes and drinking,
Yeah.
And like my great-grandparents, I knew my great-grandparents. I was lucky enough to know my great-grandparents. And like my great-grandfather wanted to die for 30 years. He was ready to go. And he just, like, he would tell, like, one of the funniest stories, like, that I ever had with him was we were at Christmas, And I went over and was talking to him about something. And I go, yeah, my dad tells me I have to be nice to you because you're old and you're going to die soon. And he just thought that was fucking hilarious. Like, he thought it was the funniest thing because, he knew he was going to die. And he thought he was going to die for 30 years before he actually did. And, like, if he'd been alive, if he'd been born 50 years sooner, he wouldn't have made it that 30 years, like you said. And then my great-grandmother survived for probably 20 or 30 years after he died, which was just tragic, you know? And, like, by the time she passed, she was skin and bones. She was stuck in my grandparents' extra bedroom upstairs. She couldn't walk down the stairs. She had bed sores everywhere. And it's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not. My uncle, who died probably 10 or so years ago, he didn't want to go through that. He had cancer and he knew he was going to be fucking bad by the end. So while he was still able to, he found a company somewhere in the world, I don't know where, and he paid them to come out and put him out of his misery when it was time.
Yeah.
And that's how he went. You know, there's a great story. Doug Stanhope, you know who Doug Stanhope is, comedian. Yeah. His mother was dying and dying. And so they went on a cruise ship, and on the last day of the cruise, he gave her a bunch of meds, and she died. And right before she died, he goes, "Wait, Mom, there's a cure."
That's so fucked.
And I'm doing that. I'm not going to have what your grandmother had, where there's a line of people there waiting for you to die. I don't have that. I'm not going to have that. If I'm lucky, my stepbrother will look after me when I'm old. But for the most part, I don't have that. And I'm not going to have that. And it's going to suck. And I'm not going to put myself in a position where I'm going to be hanging on to life for no reason at all.
Yeah, not only hanging on for no reason at all, suffering. And then I hate to go this route, but nursing homes and all that is
I don't want to do
that. But and it's a development of modern society and higher incomes and stuff like that, and it's become the norm, and it is actually an emotional and monetary drain. It in my opinion is a system to drain people of their accumulated wealth at the end of their life, to suck it back into the nothing instead of into the system, instead of it going to the generations that person has created. They take their wealth, they suck them dry, and then they put all this trauma and stress on their family members, to the point where then they're done with it, and then they're like, all right, well, it's my turn. What kind of fucking system is this?
Yeah. I did not kill myself and stretch myself as thin as I possibly could to buy as many fucking Satoshis as I possibly could when I had great entry points. I did not do that to spend it all on a fucking nursing home for 10 years. Yeah. There's this guy named Bobby Reagan. He's a very successful car dealership guy from Texas, I think. And he doesn't have any family. And he's spending every dollar he has on Supercross and motocross right now. Star Racing, Yamaha, they have I think they have 10 250 riders right now. And they have 4 450 riders, which every other team has only ever done 2 250 riders. And sometimes just 1. He's got 4 or 5 going. Let me see. Jay Coop, Eli, Christian. Yeah, he's got 4 on 450s right now, which is so cool. And I would much rather spend my life savings on racing. I'll find 10 privateers that I'll split the money up and give it to. And so I can watch and see them do something good with the money before I die, while I can still comprehend what's going on. I don't want to give my money away to people and then not see anything done with it. Right? I'm not my stepbrother, it's on you to figure it out. I'll leave you some money if you need it. But at this point, your dad's got money. you should be fine. I'm not going to leave my money to you unless you absolutely fucking need it, right?
Yeah.
And my nieces and nephews, they don't give a fuck about me, which is fine. I don't care, but I'm not leaving you any money if you don't give a fuck about me, right? And
yeah, that's how that works.
And I haven't been a great uncle either, so I'm not blaming them if it sounds that way. I'm not, like, I've been a terrible uncle. Me and my sister just don't get along. It's one of those things. Like, the last time I talked to her, she called my mom's phone while my mom was busy doing something over here, and we talked for like, I don't know, 20 or 30 seconds, and you can tell when somebody doesn't want to talk to you. It's like, and the thing I got out of it was I called my mother, not you. And that's kind of, I haven't talked to her since, and it doesn't bother me. You can, if that's how you want to play it, that's fine. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. There's no fucking skin off my dick, but I'm not going to leave you my money either. I'm not going to, and my sister's making terrible fucking decisions right now. I shouldn't have said that online, but I don't care. Nobody's fucking watching. She's still living in California. She took a job working for Prince Bonesaw, and that job went away because the line's not actually going to happen. It was a fucking scam. Imagine that. And like, they live in fire territory. They're not going to be able to get homeowners insurance pretty soon. And by the time they realize that they're fucked, it's going to be too late to go anywhere else. And my mom's been trying to get her to move here for years, and she won't do it because she's not going to make the same amount of money here. Well, guess what? She's a fucking glorified secretary. She's an executive assistant, which is secretary. And she makes $120,000 a year. That is not sustainable. That is not going to happen. AI is going to put you out of a fucking job. And they'll put in a secretary without as much experience that's willing to work for half of what you are, because your job is not essential. Period. Like, I don't understand how she can sit there and just go, oh yeah, everything's going to be fine. I'll just get a new job as a secretary and make $120,000 a year. Her husband is a mechanic at a Toyota dealership. You know this. He can make exactly the same in Idaho as he's making in California. Maybe a little bit less, but essentially a mechanic's rate is across the board, right? You're not going to make much more money working at a Harley dealership in California as you are in Montana, and your expenses are going to be way fucking cheaper in Montana.
Yeah. Well, I mean, unfortunately, where in the motorcycle industry, especially where I'm at, the riding season is so extremely seasonal that, there is an aspect of your overall income is skewed, because ultimately, like if I did work anywhere, like Southern California, Arizona, Texas, Florida, apparently Tennessee is a giant Harley Davidson hub, but any power sports industry like that, if I lived and worked somewhere where you could ride all year round, I for sure would make more money, whether it was just off of my rate or if it was because of the pay structure where I'm earning, bonuses or what have you, like longer.
But you could also look at your position in Montana as an opportunity instead of a hindrance. Like, okay, you're not as busy in the wintertime. Maybe you can work less hours and start your home business and work on build a bike for somebody during the wintertime. Like, that's a great time to build during the winter, if you've got a longer project. So it could be an opportunity if you wanted it to be,
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you have to always look at, there are going to be some places that are better than others. Even with line work, we didn't get much storm damage in North Dakota because there's no trees. It's dead flat and nothing really knocks poles over. So you're not going to you work overtime there, but it's a different type of overtime. You're working, 12 to 14, 15, 16 hours a day, 14 days in a row. So you're working overtime, but it's not storm damage overtime like you would get in California. So there are, gives and takes in every industry, but you can also look at that as an opportunity. I'm going to be home for a week with nothing to do. So if I have, skills to, do something else, like I could work on dirt bikes and do suspension or something like that on the off time. Like, there are things that you can do to supplement your income when you have time off that you can't do when you're working around the clock.
True.
If I worked when I was a bartender, one of the things that I wanted to do was to start a consulting business where I would come into your bar watch your bartenders for a day, watch your waitresses and waiters for a day or two, a couple days, however long it takes. And then I put together a report. This is what you're doing good. This is what you're doing bad. This is what you need to change. And this is why. And I could do that, on a couple of days off a week. I could just go and do that. Like, that was something interesting, but I never had the time to do it in San Francisco because I was working nonstop like a fucking crazy person. Yeah. If I was doing it here, maybe I'd be able to do that because it's not as busy and you're not going to get as many hours and you're not going to be forced to work all that overtime. So there's ways to supplement income. You just got to be smart about it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Have you ever thought about trying to do something like that? Like now?
Yeah, I looked into suspension. I thought it would be cool to be a suspension tech, but there'd be a significant down payment to get into something like that. I'd have to go and take classes with Race Tech.
I was talking about like the consulting. Like
yeah, I've thought about that. I have. I'm in a position right now where I can't work.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens after. I got a haircut because I've got a disability hearing coming up pretty soon. So we'll see what happens with that. If I don't get on disability, then maybe I'll figure something out, but right now I can't work. And to be honest, like, I don't really think I'm capable of working all that many jobs, if any, right now. So that would be something that would be difficult. It would be hard to grow. The worst thing about Idaho, and I'm sure you experienced this in Montana as well, is the food industry. The restaurants fucking suck here. You can't get a good steak anywhere. Yeah. You can't get a good burger anywhere. Privately owned restaurants just have to be a little bit better than Texas Roadhouse, and that's all they do. And that would also lend for an opportunity for me to come in and say, we're going to make you better than the bars that you're competing with. And this is how, this is why, this is what you're going to do. And I have the experience to back this up. I've worked on, different places in California, Maui. I've seen shit. I know this industry as well as anybody does. And, it would be hard. I think the move would be to do a couple for free. Go to restaurants that I've been to before, offer services for free. And then, hey, give me a review so I can, recommend me to other people that but I would have to start doing it for free, I think. And that would be the move.
For sure. And then that would be
But
good,
if I could show results, also,
data.
If I could say, hey, look,
data,
we'll do this now, show me your numbers, and then send me your numbers 6 months from now and tell me if it's helped.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I've got a funny video that we can kind of play right now. This guy thought he was working hard as a streamer until he tried construction.
Stream. I admit a 9-to-5 and construction is a lot harder than streaming. Streaming is very mentally hard, but I've only been working for 6 hours building this house. And I just want to say, show the house,
it's a shed.
A 9-to-5 and real jobs are a lot harder than streaming. They are. They take a lot more physical power, a lot more hand power. My hands hurt. My arms are sore.
Imagine that.
And, I fold. You guys were right. I was wrong, okay?
Oh, fuck.
Dude, can you imagine the arrogance of these fucking streamers? Oh, you construction worker, boo-hoo. You have to go to work every morning at 6 and use your hands? Oh, boo-hoo, it's so hard. And then he works for 6 hours by himself without a boss breathing down his neck. Can you imagine how much more mentally taxing it would be if he had a boss screaming at him to hurry the fuck up all day? Because he did everything slow as he possibly could. And this is a problem. This is a big problem. This line of thinking is not like a niche thing. Like, all these kids fucking think this. And all these tech people, it's not fucking construction, no big deal. We'll just put up some windmills. Not a big deal, right? I'm so glad that the tech bros finally just came to Jesus and realized that they need energy, because this is who is running the country right now. People like this who think that their middle-level management job or their executive assistant position is harder than a construction job. Dude, the arrogance on these fucking kids is just crazy.
Well, the thing that concerns me about Zuckerberg is, first of all, they're not stupid. And then you gotta wonder.
They're not stupid, but they're idiots.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, still can't trust, because with the amount of intel and data that they have from their platforms and data harvesting, that they knew what was going to happen way before it was going to happen, which then you're like, okay, well, was Zuckerberg just making moves ahead of time to try to avoid the wrath of Trump and
Trump
get on his good
straight
side?
up threatened him multiple times. He said something like, I'm glad that Facebook is no longer censoring, because if they decide to censor again, Mark Zuckerberg might spend the rest of his life in prison. So, yeah. Did you watch him on Rogan?
Oh, fuck. Zuckerberg?
Yeah.
I listened. I don't remember if I made it all the way through the most recent one, but I know I listened like probably at for sure at least a half.
It was interesting. I started that podcast fully like my bias and like I can't stand Zuckerberg, and I was ready to just hate him in this interview, but I kind of didn't. It was an interesting interview because the way it came off to me was kind of like, imagine if you were with a girlfriend who was just like a total cunt, just cucking you on everything, just in charge, running the show. And I think that's content moderation in this sense. So like he's basically just being cucked by content moderation and all of these, liberal fact checkers and all of this shit. And to me, the interview kind of came off like they talked a lot about fighting and how it changed his perspective on things. To me, it felt like a guy who just got out of a bad relationship and now he's back with the boys again. It's like, hey guys, sorry I was gone. My fucking wife was a cunt and she railroaded me for years, but she's gone and I'm fucking back. And that's kind of the energy that I got from that podcast. And I came off of it liking him a little bit more. And I still don't like him, but like after listening to it, I was like, all right, like there's something here. Like he's standing up for himself. He's being a fucking man. And, we have to allow leniency to these people when they do the right thing. We have to punish them. We have to, point out when they're doing the wrong thing, but we also have to recognize when they do the right thing and give them credit for it. And I don't care if he did the right thing because he wanted to do it or because Trump threatened to throw him in jail. It doesn't really matter. We're here now, and it's a different place than we were 4 years ago,
Yeah, but then you always got to, keep in the back of your mind that Zuckerberg...
You can't trust him.
Exactly. He strikes me as the kind of person that he's just gonna go whichever way the wind blows. So wind's blowing this way right now, and he's gonna do and say what he has to survive and attempt to thrive and maintain his position. Yeah,
this is gonna be an interesting 12 years for liberals because they're gonna have to figure some shit out. One of the things that I've said a lot on this podcast is that the Democrats can't hold office forever because they have so many things that they want to get done that they can't do, like windmills, climate change, for instance. They want to go full on, wind and solar and all this shit, but it's not possible with the regulatory state that they have in place. We're building 55 miles of power lines a year compared to hundreds of thousands in the 50s. We have everything is better now. Technology is better. All of our equipment is better. Everything is better, and we're building less and less and less. So they have to have a boogeyman to scream about. Oh my God, these climate change, the Republicans. If they just keep holding office indefinitely, they have nobody to blame. If it's the Democrats are holding the presidency, Congress, and Senate, how are they going to explain to these liberal lunatics why they haven't solved climate change yet? There's no answer to that. So this is like going to be an interesting 4 to 12 years. I think we're going 12 because I think Vance gets elected, in a landslide for the most part. As long as everything goes well, I think Vance gets elected in a landslide unless there's some major hiccup, and who knows? Like, there could be a black swan event tomorrow for all we know, and things could change immediately. But I think we're on a path to have another 12 years of this stuff, and it could be a great thing for this country, or we could be in a civil war by the end of it. But I think what is going to happen is a lot of the radical parts of the Democratic Party, the progressives, the crazy liberals, the blue hairs, those people are all going to be marginalized and pushed to the side because they know they're not going to win elections on that shit anymore. It's not going to work. They screamed Hitler for 4 years and were able to cheat their way into office and get Biden in there, but that's not going to work again. We all know that it's not going to work again. Zuck's not going to let that happen again unless he really sees the winds changing, as you said. And I don't imagine the Democrats, who are they going to run 4 years from now? Gavin Newsom? I mean, they have nobody. They have to do some soul searching, and they have to be corrupt, and they're going to have to go more moderate again. We're going to see, a more Hillary Clinton style. Maybe Hillary runs again in 4 years. Who the fuck knows? That would be stupid of them, but it could happen. She's a moderate for the most part. Well, she can be whatever she wants to be because she's a snake and she doesn't believe in anything except for power and fucking going to islands with children. But speaking of going to islands with children, here's Whitney Cummings on the tunnels in L.A.
All right, I'm going to read another real dark text to you guys about the LA fires and what people are talking about that you're not seeing in the news. And let me just preface this by saying, I'm not defending LA. I've been trying to get out of here for years, but not everyone that lives here is some idiot that gets their news from sunny Houston on the View or something.
I like Whitney. She's been good lately.
Not because we love it. It's just our parents didn't give us attention.
Having kids changes
you had to come
perspective,
to LA
right?
because this is where all the cameras were. This is where the attention was. But now we can do this anywhere. Let me read you this text from a friend of mine who's super smart. Wednesday on, I'm not going to tell you where, just below my house, a homeless man poured gasoline down the sewer grate and lit it on fire. Homeless in LA is a very tricky thing. It's hard to figure out who's homeless and who's not because really rich people dress like they're homeless. It's just the brand of the clothes they're wearing is the Olsen twins or whatever. So when you see a homeless person, it's very hard to tell, is that a bum? Is that a hobo? Or is that a Nepo baby? And then 2 hours later, out of nowhere, with no burning embers near us, hard to prove that, Runyon goes up. We watched it from our bedroom window. A little smoke, 5 minutes later, the whole hill is on fire. 10 minutes later, we're out of there. He says, I think someone is trying to encircle Los Angeles. A few people cashing in on insurance, but someone wants to burn this place to the ground and get the land or cover the tunnels. Ow. Hit my head. The tunnels, dog, I really don't have time to take on LA tunnels, so I will.
We have time to take on LA tunnels, so we will. What do you know about the tunnels in LA, Nolan? Anything?
I didn't know anything other. Yeah, I didn't.
Well, let's learn some tunnels.
Large working city operating deep underground as we go about our lives on the surface above. It's real, and it's right here in the United States.
Subtropolis. Decades ago, limestone was mined here for concrete and asphalt. What's left is space. A lot of space.
Okay, so what's down here right now? We have 6 million square feet of buildings leased to 55 companies. There's 1,700 employees that run around here and go to work every day.
It's a massive industrial park, all underground.
Do you ever worry like the world could come to an end upstairs and you guys would just be down here safe, toiling away, right? I feel like Fort Knox.
Security is a big selling point. Subtropolis is basically disaster-proof. Another selling point? Subtropolis is always 65 degrees.
Sounds
always.
like a BDSM.
What
No
better
climate
place
change down there,
to put
baby.
a room full of computer servers? There's a lot of cool stuff in Subtropolis, especially in a company called Underground Vaults and Storage.
What are you going to show us? We're going to show you Hollywood right behind these doors.
inside aisle upon aisle of TV and movie treasures sent here by the studios for safekeeping. From the National Archives to food distributor Harris Brothers, the occupants of Subtropolis praise the predictability of doing business in a place where the sun never shines nor sets.
All right. Since we're done, we're gonna skip the unfortunately, the Starbucks guy is full of shit.
Oh, really?
Such a bummer. Yeah, it was a troll. Fucking guy. Oh, I was so bummed too. He was saying that he worked in a Starbucks underground that was for celebrities only, and it was such a convincing video, but we're not gonna play it because Twitter. Anyways, this one I think is more convincing. Let's go to Allie Cooper, who was a hooker when she was 15 in Los Angeles.
So the names that you just mentioned, Barack Obama, Steven Tyler, Joe Biden, Michelle Obama, have you had personal sexual experiences with these people?
Yes.
These people participated in sex abuse firsthand with you?
Yes.
Can you tell that story? Because that's important for people to understand and to know. And to this point, I don't think a national platform has given you the opportunity to say those things.
No, because everybody is complicit. Everybody is complicit. It is covered up by your local FBI. It is covered up by your local police department. It is underground tunnels. There's a whole world. It's a different way of life. There's every source of transportation. When I met Joe Biden, I was rushed through many celebrities. Half of them I did not know. It didn't faze me to see them. It didn't. Some of them were actually very conceited and cocky that I didn't know who they were.
That I believe. That's an interesting detail.
Underground, under the Getty Museum in Los Angeles, there are many tunnels. Again, there's a way of transportation. There's every single way of transportation under the ground. I was sold to Joe Biden. Multiple times. Sometimes people don't talk about it, because when you don't talk about it, it makes it okay. When you don't talk about it, it makes you bury it. When you don't talk.
Oh, I'm sorry I had to do that. Nolan, QAnon has aged better than Russiagate. I don't know what to say. That I believe that woman. I don't know, like, how does a fatherless black woman come up with that fucking theory on her own? It just seems pretty believable to me. I don't know. What do you think?
It's extremely interesting. Yeah, it's very interesting. The what was it? Lime and asphalt mines. That is probably seems the most factual and real.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
The detail about them being angry that she didn't recognize them, that to me is probably the most interesting detail of what she said, because that is believable to me. Like, they're underground, they're masquerade part. Oh, Denzel, you don't recognize me? What rock have you been living under? You know, I'm fucking Denzel Washington, bitch. Let's play this last one and then we'll get out of here. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, but that's kind of like I mean, if you're, just playing devil's advocate a little bit, if you're gonna tell a story about celebrities, period, and you want to skew it to their, conceited or stuck up or whatever, that would just be the go-to. Oh, you don't know who I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Possible. I don't know that I would have come up with that detail if I was making up that story. I wouldn't have thought of something like that. But it does make sense because I was in a movie with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson, and it was the weirdest thing. Like, I was in a scene, I'm in the bar, and like there's tons of people, extras around the bar, and everybody's like bullshitting and having a good time. And then like they walk in and everybody's like, quiet on the set. And then him and Owen Wilson walk in and they're talking really loud to like not extras, to like the crew about fantasy football and just weird shit. And they did not acknowledge anyone else in the room the entire time we were in there. They never even acknowledged my presence. Yep. It was like we weren't even there. And we were just expected to sit there and listen to them talk about fantasy football for 20 minutes while everything else got set up. And that was fucking weird. The first thing I noticed when they walked into the bar, I was like, holy shit, these guys are wearing a fucking shitload of makeup.
Yeah.
But like, we did a couple of takes on the scene. In the first take, I did like a little bit of flair. And they stopped the scene afterwards. And the director, who was a big time director, was like, bartender. And I was like, yeah. He's like, can you do that again? But I want you to do it. This time, I want you to be faced towards the camera and be looking at these people while you do it. And I was like, I can do more if you want. And he was like, do more. I was like, cool. So I, did some more flair and did some shit. And he was, and then we stopped again. And again, I was the only one that got notes. All right, face a little bit more this way. Do this one for, then do that, and then pour the drink that way. I can do that. Still, I worked at the bar that we're filming in. They still never acknowledged my existence. My boss got so mad at Owen Wilson, it was hilarious. Owen Wilson was playing air hockey with his wife, and with my boss's wife, not Owen Wilson's wife. And it was like the only person that he acknowledged. My boss's wife was smoking hot. Anyways, he asks my boss for more tokens. He was like, yeah, sure. I get all the tokens you want. I'll bring you a bunch of them. And he goes, tell you what, can I grab a quick picture with you and my wife? Just, And he was like, oh, sorry, man. I can't do that. That might end up on TMZ and that would be really bad for me. And he goes, TMZ? He goes, if I wanted to sell something to TMZ, it would be from one of the 90 security cameras I have running, not my cell phone.
Yeah.
And then he got into it with the producer, and we got an extra 10 grand out of the producer because those guys, my boss was so mad because he wanted a picture with him, me, the kitchen manager, the assistant GM, and Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn and the other big act. Like he just wanted us to take one big picture at the bar because they made the bar look incredible. They brought in all this like tropical stuff. It looked fucking great, and they refused to do it. And he was just pissed. All right, let's play this last video, and then we'll get you out of here.
This from you. This is the underground city that was found beneath Los Angeles by a man named Warren Shufelt. It was discovered using a device he invented to detect underground tunnels and caverns. Shufelt mapped out a network of passageways stretching for miles beneath the city. And here is where it gets crazy. His maps indicated a central chamber filled with gold and advanced artifacts. Shufelt said that upon analysis of the artifacts and the scriptures found within the passageways, they all pointed to a lost continent named Lemuria. Despite his groundbreaking findings, city officials abruptly shut down his excavation. They officially claimed that the tunnels were old subway lines. But this is where they messed up. The Los Angeles subway system didn't begin operation until 1990, over 70 years after Schufelt's discovery. So what subway lines were they referring to? Some speculate that they were referring to an ancient civilization that had access to a subway-like system.
People!
Some have even gone further to say that the city officials had knowledge from the future. They knew that Los Angeles would eventually have a running subway system in the years to come. Therefore, it would be the perfect cover-up, perfectly concealing its true origins.
That's interesting. That lines up with the old Tartaria theory, which I'm not a fan of personally. I was watching a Tartaria video the other day where this guy was showing this old church. How did they make this with stonemason tools? And they couldn't do it. We can't do that today. It's like, come on, man. Like, the people, we give such little credit to our ancestors. They were so fucking smart, and they were so capable, and they were capable of doing shit that we're not capable of today, because it took a long time for them to learn how to do it. They spent fucking years and years and years of their lives learning how to work stonemasonry. It's like, I don't know, but it sure is interesting. And on that, You got to go to work tomorrow. Let's get the fuck out of here.